Awesome. So welcome to another episode of Israel Unfiltered. I have with us Ofer Gutman, who leads up Masa Israel. I did Masa in the spring or winter of 2009, not 19. So it was a hell long time ago. And now Masa's come a long way. And a few people reach out that I reach out to Ofer. So Ofer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Yoel, for having me.
So if someone doesn't know what Masa is, or if you're like me who hasn't been on it in 13 years, what is Masa Israel?
Well, Masa is it's like what it says. It's a journey. That's the word in Hebrew, and it's not like any other trip. It's actually trying to connect you to Israel through a long-term journney. We are providing long-term opportunities for people to connect to Israel, to connect to their Jewish identity, and actually we help to shape their future. So people come here for a few months to a year to do many different things: volunteer, teach, intern, work, study, and through that they get to know Israel better, get to know themselves, and it changed their life. I hope it changed yours.
Yeah, so it actually was. I did it. I was studying at Torah Yeshiva. I studied finance, and I graduated December 2008. And then there was a new president in America who was anti-finance industry, and the finance industry collapsed. So I actually had an interview, I remember, in the very end of November in 2008, with Merrill Lynch. I think it was November. And the interview was the day after they went bankrupt, like the morning after. It was like 9. And the two women that were interviewing were like, well, your job doesn't exist. We're interviewing for a job that probably doesn't exist. And our jobs probably don't exist by the end of the day and the end of the week. It was probably one of the most hilariously awkward conversations of my life.
I remember these.
You remember that time?
Yeah? I remember these years. It's like it was very bad years economically, but for Masa it was actually a very good years. Of a lot of people found us as an opportunities, and this is how our career programs started to develop. You chose another program, which was great, but this was the start of our career programs. People lost their job or could not find a job because of the market, and they say, you know what, I'll just gonna go to Israel to intern for a few months or to be there to explore, and it might open for me an opportunity, and I'll come back. It will jumpstart my career, and a lot of people did that.
Right. So I was exactly that. I graduated December 2008. I was like, what am I going to do? There was no opportunity before that. I was like, what am I going to do? There's no jobs. There's nothing, not in finance. They were firing. There was like there wasn't like the beginning of a rebound in no jobs. Like there's nothing. And it's like, all right, I'll go to Israel for a few months. I've been a couple times during college. I was there for a gap year after high school. And so I was like, I'll go study at Torah Yeshiva. I have no idea why or how, for a few months, and because it's an old city, and they had a Masa program, and I believe it was maybe a subsidy or something. I don't remember. I think there's some kind of incentive or a voucher. I don't remember, and it was awesome. I loved it. I learned a lot about history, and it was a great time, and it was very convenient. It was there, and we did some kind of like tiulim within Yerushalayim. I remember it was really cool. And then within that, then obviously Masa has progressed dramatically. So how would you say Masa has progressed?
Well, Masa has developed in many different countries. Today, we're bringing about 12,000 people a year from 60 different countries. So it's not just the market of North America. We have a lot from FSU, from former Soviet Union, or from France, from Latin America. That was about geographically, but also about our products. It became a lot about career development, about social justice, about opportunities to come to intern, work, study, or volunteer in Israel in many different ways. And I think like the core is what you said is it doesn't matter what Masa program you do. You're gonna have trips around the country. You're going to have meetings with Israelis. You're gonna learn some Hebrew. But you cannot stop your life for a few months to a year and just go for a trip. You can, but that's not the goal here. And we want to combine it with what will help you to promote yourself professionally or personally. So the core of the program is about what you want to do, study or work or doing courses or training. And we have many opportunities like that.
That's cool. What do you say, what are like, when people talk about Israel and they want to come, what are they usually like, what are they looking for? Is it So people usually come for one reason, and then once they get there, they decide, actually, I'd be more interested in something else. I feel like in college, I know a lot of people that switched majors. They went there, they thought they wanted to do something. For some reason, no one told them, don't study that because it makes no money and it's a waste and it's like a fraud. And then it takes them like a year and a half after paying a ridiculous the amount calls for college in America to then you switch degrees. You know what I mean? Like people usually come and then they get here and they're like, maybe this isn't for me, or I want to do something else, or let's say their experience with the Masa or their experience with Israel evolves, like kind of like, you know, it's
Well, I
kind of
would
like a
start
stepping
and say
stone.
that I would say there's two types of people that are, there's many types, but if we divide to two types of people, would say people that is Israel first, meaning I want to come to Israel. I've been to Israel before, or I thought about Israel. All my life I wanted to come to Israel, and this is an opportunity, and it's Israel first, and now what you have to offer me. But there's also a lot of people that Israel is not something on their radar. They want to do international experience. They want to do tikkun olam or volunteer in India or Africa, and this is our product is just one of the opportunities for them. People want to teach English. It's a big thing. People want to teach English abroad in South Korea or in Thailand, and we have a teaching program in Israel.
That's cool.
So with these people, I wouldn't say Israel wasn't their motivation. They're not against Israel, because then they wouldn't see it as an opportunity to come. But Israel was not a motivation to come. They wanted a specific program or specific internship or specific course, and we had the best package for them. And when they come here, I think most of them are falling in love with this country because it's so. I think it's so unique.
Well, it is. You don't have to say I think. I mean, it's ridiculously unique.
Well, it's from I can only say my opinion. I cannot say it as a fact, but from my opinion, it's a very.
All right, fine. My fact, your opinion. So, yeah, we were just talking about how before this, I was talking to someone on my team where I work, and we were talking. He went down out when there was snow last week. I went up to the Golan on Thursday, and he went down right outside of Jerusalem. So there was for those that don't know, there's an insane amount of snow, and we were talking about how crazy it is, just like me going from where I live in like Pardes Khan, you go through the Galil and the Golan, and there's snow, and you have the Shomron, you have the mountains and the plains, and then you have the desert. And I have an employee. She lives right outside of Jerusalem, and she took a 2-day vacation in the Arava in the desert. It's like an hour from her house, and she drives home, and then it snows. It's like, it's like unreal. And there's so many different things. Just like that's just unique. We're like this joke of a sliver of a land, and we sit on what, like 3-4 tectonic plates or something,
I think it's amazing. Me and my wife, we live in the center of Israel in near Tel Aviv. And yes, you can decide that you want a weekend that you go to the north and you will feel more like you're in Europe, or you can go to the south and you will feel like you're in a desert experience, and it's all 1 hour, 1.5 hour drive from our home. It's very, very unique. But I want to relate to something you said before about the career part. I really think that what you said about the people that are spending a lot of money to teach something, to study something, but after that they figure out that it's not something that they want to do. They started it even earlier these days. It's something that even sometimes frightening. Sometimes I met a group of people that are 16, and I asked them, how many do you have LinkedIn? And most of them raised their hand. So they're thinking about the career in a much earlier
That's
time.
good. But do you think that's a career thing, or is that like a social media awareness thing? Because they're more aware and exposed to also things that aren't career related. I would say even a distraction from your career, like Instagram or Snapchat, or God forbid, TikTok.
That's why I said LinkedIn. I didn't say.
I know, but maybe it's just that it falls under the social media package. I don't know.
I would. It's a theory. It can happen what you said, but on the other hand, we can see that even in our gap year programs, it used to be like gap year in Israel, like Masa
Right.
was very much about leadership and about volunteering, about opportunities to learn more about yourself and to connect to this country. But now, more and more gap year programs have courses, career internships. This 18-year-old, just fresh out of high school, is doing an internship in this Masa program, and it's something that he would think he might want to learn,
which is great.
Study in university.
So I had someone
So
I met someone on Masa and he went to a lot to do the like marine biology or something because that's what he was into, whatever. I met him here and here in 2019, 2009, I see 2019. Um, yeah, and then he
it's
ended
still
up
part of
falling in
your
love with
Masa
it.
experience. You can't let it
Yeah, I
go.
can't. I
Can't let
can't
it
leave it,
go.
man. I can't leave it. I'm reliving it all the time, and it was fascinating for them. It was a career pivot. You know, for me, I was able to reevaluate my finance career, or in general, my career. Also, the crash of the market really made me reevaluate. But then while I was here, I got to reprioritize. I did some hiking. I ended up getting my MBA at Bar Ilan. I figured while this finance economy
Amazing.
sucks, I'll be more ready when it comes out. So I thought. But those people that's so interesting, you're involved. So what age groups are you? Is your core? Is the let's say the majority, like the
No,
core?
the core programs are like 18 to 35, even though we just started some programs that are for teens, for 16
That's
to
cool.
18. But I would say it's more about the post-high school experience and the post-college experience, which is very different. But what we say is the post-high school experience, which used to be much more traditionally, like I said, about just more independent and more about volunteer and some leadership courses, became more career oriented. There's a lot of career elements already getting into this early ages that I want to explore. What I want to learn. I want to have experience. I want to have jumpstart something that I want to have better than anyone else that is in my field. So we see that it's going down, like going to earlier ages.
Interesting. So it's why is that? Is that more like is it like a career? Like I'm trying to get focused. I want to get more experience. I want the opportunity to travel. What is it that draws people? I think I personally noticed in the last several years, obviously Corona aside, that and I think social media, Instagram in particular has played a big part of this, that I think the interest for younger people to travel is way up. And then I think also now coronavirus helped this and I am in digital marketing, is that the digital nomad, so to speak, that so much work now can be done online, so much of the economy can be done remotely, and coronavirus forced that on people, me included, that they're like, okay, might as well go travel. I have a friend that was in America. He was in Cali. He said the lockdowns were ridiculous. He just went to Hawaii. So he just wrote it out there, and he just moved to Israel. So you know what I mean? Then and
COVID changed a lot. COVID changed
yeah.
a lot
So how did
also
it change you
for
guys?
well, it changes dramatically with the fact that I think because we are long-term traveling, it was the easiest for us to adopt. We actually never stopped. When COVID hit in March 2020, when it hit Israel, we were in a crossroad. We had about 7,500 fellows in Israel. We need to decide if we are continuing or we stopping. And we decided we're continuing the programs. About 40% left us and decided to go back home because they didn't know what's going on. They didn't know what will happen. I'm not blaming them. But the ones who decided to stay showed us that we can adopt to the situation. And that gave us the ability to get the entry permits from the government. And because we are connected to the government and the Jewish agency, we were able to, even when tourists were not allowed into Israel, Masa fellows weren't allowed. And what we saw that was two phenomena that happened to us. On one hand, on our post-high school programs, there was a big rise of applicants, people who didn't think it wasn't their life path to come here at all. Why? Because like they didn't want to study on Zoom. They didn't want to, all the colleges went on Zoom, and they didn't want to study on Zoom, pay so much money and to go and have that experience.
Yeah,
And
it's such a scam.
Again,
They're paying people full tuition. People that paid for room and board, and they're not even getting room and board. They're not giving them money back. They're paying full tuition to learn on Zoom. The whole thing's
so
a
we
scam.
gave them an alternative experience,
A
and
real
we saw
experience.
a lot of people that were accepted to Ivy League schools and deferred it and came to do the Masa experience, even though they would not do it on a regular year. The second thing that happened is people that are post college young professionals that again lost their jobs or the jobs went on frozen or they could work from anywhere. So some of them came to our career programs, but we also opened new career opportunities. We did the Masa remote work. Like, okay, you have your job, you can work from anywhere you can, come here and do it in Israel. We'll provide you with like a WeWork type workplace. We're gonna immerse you into society. You'll have trips. You're going to enjoy living in Israel while working remotely in the work that you did until now. And a lot of people decide to do that. So I would say that every crisis have an opportunity if you adopt the situation and you figure out what solution you have to people's problems. And I think in COVID time, we were a good solution, and we found ourselves as a solution to problems that a lot of young people had.
Got it. Awesome. That's really cool. So now, so they saw the opportunity that they couldn't. Do you think as COVID, God willing, leaves us or becomes an endemic, not a pandemic, do you think how do you think registration will change? Like, how do you forget registration? That's boring. Do the interest in coming to Israel or the interest in doing an organized volunteer learning opportunity, kind of like Masa, to have like a real life experience, and in general, tourism in Israel, how do you think things kind of like change and evolve? And when people do these people come to Israel and kind of come and learn about it, I
think a lot of things will change after COVID, and we see it, and it will look. When before COVID, I went to the office 5 times a week, and all my team went to the office 5 times a week. We're not doing that anymore. And even when we thought that COVID is ended, because in Israel there were waves, and throughout the world there were a few months each time that you think, okay, we're behind it. This wave is gone, and we can go back to our routine. We never came back fully. We have like a policy now that it's 3 days in the office and 2 days you work from home, and that's a great combination. I think a lot of things are going to change. A lot of people, about the big resignation. A lot of people resign from their work, decide to restart their life, rethink about what they want to do, and so I think a lot of things will change. If Israel traveling will get bigger or not, I don't know. It doesn't relate only to Masa. I think the fact that tourists were not able to come to Israel for 2 years at least, the moment that it's going to be after COVID, there's going to be a huge wave of people that will come here that were waiting for this. But I do think that even business traveling. I remember my last trip to the States before COVID. And during COVID, I looked at the itinerary, and I thought that a lot of that I could do online, a lot of these meetings. But if I would do it before COVID and tell people, let's get on a Zoom call, I don't need to travel all the way to meet you, they will be insulted. They will say he's not serious. He wants to meet me. He should come here. But now they're willing to do that. But now it saves energy, it saves time, it saves money. So I'm not saying it's going to be no business traveling, but I think it's going to change that as well. But it's dependent on us, because I can see there are 2 types. So I see it in Israel, the 2 types of companies. There are companies that immediately, when they thought that COVID was behind us, boom, back to the same way it was. Like, haven't you learned anything from it? And there were companies who adopted to this situation and said, I'm not going back to where I was. I'm going to try a new thing, learn from this. I'm going to take the good of what I learned. And I think it's going to be, again, like this is how it's going to be in the world, around the world. I'm just telling it from my Israel experience.
Yeah, I was like radically into everyone being in the office, and then Corona hit, and then I learned that I have no control over anything, and then we haven't gone back. I said we're permanently remote. There's absolutely no reason to force people back into the office. They don't want to. We hired people throughout the country, and so I think asking them to commute wasn't cool. And I have absolutely no intention for us to be in-house. Everyone's 100% remote. It makes hiring easier and harder, because they need to have a room dedicated for an office and all that, because it's full time. You don't know that they need a real workstation at home.
I still think it's a good combination. I see when we are in the office, and there's a lot of thinking, social scene, best ideas, and when you 3 people making their coffee in the morning in the kitchen. That's the best ideas that are coming there in chit chats. So that thing you cannot do when you're remotely. On the other hand, there's so many great advantages. Look, I have a global team. I have people that working in 23 different countries. I was talking about my Israel office, but actually the global team is becoming much more close and much more connected.
Because you used to keep them segmented, right. Because the two people, right. If you're in Israel, your relationship with someone else in Israel is the same as relationship with someone in New York or the Ukraine, which is Zoom. Right, or whatever, right? Or Google Meet. Awesome. Very, very interesting. Do you think, have you ever considered like maybe Masa becoming, do you provide college credits?
Some of the programs, first of all, yes, some of the programs do provide college grades.
What's the most popular program? And what's the fastest growing program?
Well, for gap year programs, I think the two big programs that we have is the Young Judea course and the
That's what I did. Yeah, I did Young Judea. Yeah, a long time ago.
They are the biggest one in that, and we have some in our post college. We have 2 or 3 different career programs that are the biggest. But we also work with the universities, so you can do that study abroad or masters in Israel. So that typically provides a college.
Can someone get a full degree via Masa, but it might be accredited to another university, either Israeli university or an American university? Or because when I did Young Judea, I did your course, Young Judea, for those that don't know, that's a gap year between high school and your first year of college, that you come to Israel for a year and you just do all kinds of really cool stuff. So I became an EMT for Magen David Adom, which is an EMT service in Israel in Tiberias, and then I did volunteering at a youth village and all kinds of cool stuff, and hung out on an army base for a few months, and then learned in Jerusalem a lot. This was an awesome experience, the best year of my life. I'll never have a better year. Even when I marry my kids, I'll become a grandfather. I can't imagine it being this good. And probably because it was pre-social media too. And but we were able to get, even though it was for a full year, I got a semester and a half of accredited credits through like the Jewish University or something, whatever that's.
Yeah.
And I applied it to my college, which is why I said earlier, I graduated in December 2008 because I only needed 3.5 years in order to graduate, not 4.
Right.
I even had I didn't have to take
all
of them.
So that we still have it even more.
But why not a full degree? So let's say
but like you do have a full degree. You can do a master degree, a master in Israel for 4 months. For 4 semesters, 1 year in English. You can do a full master degree in a year from Tel Aviv U or from Hebrew U. You can do a full bachelor degree, but that will take more than a year. Your first year here will be a Masa year, but then you will need to extend it and have the other 2 years after Masa.
Yeah, my camera just went out of focus. It's driving me nuts. Anyway, so they can get a full degree. That's cool. Because I think, so I mean, I'm very, I've become anti-college, even though I have an MBA and all that. I found now, I mean, the information age, like these people you said that are learning on Zoom, and not to mention, forget the money and the time and the experience, all suck fast, but also what they're learning when they go out of the real world is going to be irrelevant and outdated, because that's how quickly things are changing in the information age. Is there a way, can someone get it? What would be cool is if people can actually, in a way, replace, not just get the full degree, but kind of like replace the full university experience and reimagine what a university degree and experience is. Because what I find, because you guys have internships, that's kind of like what I did, or some other people did too. You have like an internship. Mine wasn't really an internship by the American definition, but I think it was titled that. But within these internships where you can learn and do something, so like I'll give the example of the person that was learning marine biology in Eilat, the coral reefs. I mean, they learned more hands-on, basically interning, being paid, not being paid, working for free for an organization. They got more real life experience and the work that's actually involved than they would sitting in university, right?
Right.
So
you absolutely agree with you. I'm not against education. But I definitely understand that in today's world, experience is what actually helps you. And
experience is education. The problem is school is not education. Albert Einstein said,
So-
"I never let educate." What Albert Einstein said, "I never let education. I never let schooling get in the way of my education." I think something about paraphrasing. And that was what? That was like 60 years ago. He said that. So it's
Well,
even
he
then
definitely,
you don't learn much.
he knew, he was very smart, this guy.
Those are the rumors. I don't know. The jury's still out.
Some of the you can see even some of the universities are changing their model to less in class, and they have a creditable internship. They have projects that you do. They have assignments that you do that are giving you more experience. But I can see that some of our programs, people are coming to a non-academic program, but gives you professional training. We do boot camps for in high tech for coders, for developers. We do trainings for people who wants to work in the tourism industry, that wants to be lifeguards and wants to be a scuba diver teachers. So there's many opportunities to do professional training without just the official university credit path that gives you tachlis in Israel for tachlis. Practical tools for your professional life. And definitely these internships are one of the most better things to jumpstart your career, and especially in Israel. And I'm back to Israel about the fact that when you do like an internship in America, you come and they tell you this, your job descriptions is what you're going to do, these are the 4 things you're going to do, this is the person you're going to report to. And it's very, very organized. When you go to Israel, in Israeli startup, in the second day, they give you this project and they say, okay, welcome to the team.
Before that, because when I speak to clients, right, and they have like, oh, we're bringing in a new marketing manager. It's like, okay, yeah, they start in like 3 weeks, and then they're on the call next week. It's like, wait, I thought she was starting in 3 weeks. And they're like, oh, no, we're already putting tasks in the assignment. She started. It's like working like 2-3 hours a day for the next 2 weeks.
But
that's very Israel.
You learn. You learn. You jump in the pool. You start swimming.
There's a lack of. I would say this is a good thing. 90% of the time, it's good. There's a lack of hierarchy, right? And in my business too,
right.
There's a lack of hierarchy in a sense that it's flat. So it's not like, hey, you're going to do work for me and you don't even know what you're doing and why you're doing. No. You're an integral part of the team. We're relying on you now. You know what I mean? Like you've been insane. It's almost like a soldier, right? You got you're like everybody else here. You might not have as much experience. You might be lower in the chain of command, but you're a big part of the team. You're a full thing. If you misfire that weapon, it gives up our location. If then like you're full on board. You're incorporated. And I think there's that, and it maybe comes from the Army. It could have been just the need to use as many resources as you have, as you need. That's what I think.
I think it's a resource management. It also comes from the fact that we're not good in preparing so much in advance, but really, really good in last minute.
You're talking about Israelis or
Israelis. So I actually think that the best combination is an American-Israeli company. Americans will plan it all, but we will have zero understanding about how to change it in the last minute when needed. And Israelis will not plan it so much and rely on the American plan, but they'll step ahead to do the last minute changes when needed and as needed.
And hopefully they can bring the American customer service to Israel. So that's what I would like.
Yes, that's
the American customer. That's my goal. And my work is to bring the American customer service to Israel. I'll tell you this, and our viewers might enjoy this. I had an employee 4 years ago, and I was calling TD Bank. This is the bank used in America, even though they're Canadian, but whatever. And so whatever, I called, and I was like on hold for a minute, so I put on speaker, and I went back to working. Within like 40 seconds, this woman answers the phone, and she goes, "Hey, good afternoon. This is Shaniqua speaking with TD Bank. How is your day going today? And how can I help you?" Like just super cheery, asking how I'm doing. Started off with a blessing. Didn't even ask who she's speaking to or anything yet. And then my coworker, he's Israeli, but he was born here, or not, he's from Moldova, but he moved when he was a little kid. And he was like, "Get off the phone, dude. Get off the phone. Like this is suspicious. You know what I mean?" It was like something's wrong. It was like this is weird. Like this is weird. Like you didn't know how to deal with it. And that's kind of what people kind of grow up with their expectations. It's such a cultural shock that I do believe that unique hybrid of Anglo and Israelis can make a phenomenal improvement for Israel and the rest of the world, and for the human race. So I
And I
think
think
there's
the fact that there is more Anglos coming here, and because Israel was built of waves of immigration from different Jewish communities, and there was never like a big Anglo wave that came here in big numbers, influenced the society. But I actually see it. I see it a lot with Masa, because there's a lot of, you go in Tel Aviv or you go in Jerusalem. There is in every moment there is like thousands of Masa fellows there, and even if most of them don't stay for life, they're still there for a semester or a year, and they influence the society. They get influenced a lot in becoming more and more Israelis with that, but they also leave their mark on the Israeli companies and Israeli society. So
yeah, people should come and leave a mark. I hope that happens more.
Yeah.
And Israelis are doing that too, because as the world gets flatter, so to speak, and with the tech, so let's say they go to America and they come back, and now you start to see, there's like starting to build like a little small whiskey industry in Israel. That only happened because Israelis went abroad. I started to notice when I live right outside of Caesarea. And when I moved here 8 years ago, I see that the golf courses were more popular. More people were coming to visit golf courses at Caesarea more. I think we need one outside of Eilat, but that's another conversation. I have this whole idea for Eilat.
But it's you're right. When I lived in the States for a few years. I lived in New York. I was what we call emissary, shaliach. I worked for a Jewish agency and for a Zionist organization abroad. But I felt like I didn't feel that I changed so much. But when I came back to Israel, then I felt the change. I felt that you're becoming a bit more American than you used to be.
Wait, what does that mean? Come on. How did you change? Did you become softer? Kinder?
Well, it's the first after I came
People
back.
People always changing. You're going to leave this conversation and you'll be a changed man too. But how did you change?
I remember the first time that I had to go to the ATM in Israel after I came back.
Okay.
And you go to the ATM, and there was someone in the
What year is this? What year is this? Just for context.
I came back in 2008, so
okay,
many years ago.
Like when I did Masa.
Yes, exactly. So he was already in the ATM, the guy before me. So I gave them like a few like I stayed behind him, but I wasn't standing on top of him. I gave him the space. So there was another person came, another Israeli, and he just stood in front of me. and I like, what's going on? What are you doing? And he's like, well, you standing for the line? Told me. He didn't even think I was standing for the line because he was standing on top of the guy.
Right. He's like looking at his pin as he edges it.
Not really looking for it, but that's automatic way of thinking. And for me, like if before my living in the States, I probably would do the same.
Right.
But that's something that is changing in your mind.
So wait, is that an improvement? Would you say?
Yeah,
that's a positive change. Okay, got it.
Yes, but yeah, that was a positive change.
Maybe that will be lasting from coronavirus. Is a little more personal space.
Yeah, no, definitely. They will give you more. Israelis need to learn the hard way.
Yeah, that's gonna. I wonder how much of what things culturally are here to stay and whatnot. When an Israeli like yourself, you said you lived in New York. When you go to America, what's the biggest culture shock for you as an Israeli?
Well, now I don't have a culture shock.
Not now. When you moved there a long time ago.
My culture shock was that it was raining in the summer.
It was raining in the summer. Okay. That's not culture. Yeah, that's not culture. That's a shock. That's not culture.
No, you're right. It's not a cultural shock, but it is a shock. My biggest culture shock was a Memorial Day weekend sales.
Memorial Day weekend sales, yeah.
Sales.
I know what you mean, right?
Or
they vacation, they go to the beach and they party, And it's not like they go to memorial service and then party, or they party in memory of. They party.
No, you open the TV, you see Memorial Day weekend sales, everything is,
Right.
And as someone's coming from Israel, which Memorial Day is a huge thing. Memorial Day and Independence Day are connected. It's the day one after the other. There is a big siren. Everyone's standing. You
want to explain. You want to explain what that is? I think you may have just said something that I understand, and maybe half my audience understand. The half of the audience doesn't.
Okay. Okay, so in Israel, before the independence celebration, the Independence Day, before our 4th of July, there is something called Yom HaZikaron, a Memorial Day, which is a memorial for all the people that were killed in the wars to defend this country, and it's connected. It's day after the other. It's not separate in a different time of the calendar. It's a day after the other, and they are combined.
Intentionally, so just so people know, this was intentionally designed by the founding fathers.
Exactly. And in the day of Memorial Day, there is silence over Israel, and people are standing like to commemorate it. There is ceremonies everywhere. It's a sad day that you can't see any. You open the TV, only memories, only.
Everything's
only
closed too. I remember the gas station being closed. I was like, the gas station.
You open the TV, you open the radio, there is like a sad music about something. It's very powerful. And then I went to the States and I saw that's Memorial Day. That was one of the biggest shocks for me.
Amazing. So what, other than, let's say, personal space, right? Well, that was then, and for you, what do you think? I mentioned, like, I see more American style leisure, or you're like, as I said, also more cigar consumption, golf, whiskey, things that involve kind of leisure and associated with business, because a lot of them are going there for business and then coming back. Whereas they're going as adults. I don't mean young people that have money to spend, and they're probably going there for work or for their startup. What other things do you think do you think the way business is done has evolved from doing more business abroad, and as Israel's economy become more international and tech focused, specifically international, how has that changed business itself? And how has that changed also, maybe, do you think Israelis like you are getting it from abroad? People are maybe giving more personal space. Do you think customer service has improved? Do you think your relationship between your neighbors in general, and maybe only in certain segments of the population and demographics, maybe, where have you seen any changes, both from tourists, such as people from Masa coming, or from Israelis going and coming back?
So Israel has changed a lot. I think Israel is a miracle of what it did in the last 70 years, from almost what it used to be. But there is also the last, I would say, 20, 30 years, a huge jump in where we were. I grew up with one channel, one TV channel. Okay, that was out, and I'm not that old. Okay, and today,
50? You say you're turning 50?
No.
I'm just trying to get you that.
But people that grew up in Israel until 92, I think, was the second channel in
oh God.
TV. So people who grew up here in the 80s grew up with one TV channel. It's a huge difference than America. So we had a big change with import export, with economic, with our market. My wife is American. She's from New York. I met her when I was living there. But her father is Israeli. So she used to have a grandma here. And as a kid, she used to come visit. And she tells me that when she came to visit, when she was a kid, it's like going into the time tunnel, going back in time. You bring your chocolate, and you bring your jeans, and you bring your shirts, and like every people in the family, like, oh, the people, the rich person from America. It's not really rich, but like he came from all these goodies bringing to Israel. Now when everyone tells me I'm coming from America, what should I bring you? I'm like, I don't know.
Nothing. Better trade policy.
But the gap is closed.
Right.
Living in Israel, I think it has today a lot of the advantages of living in Israel that we used to have, but I think the disadvantages, not living in this
Third
high
world country.
standard a Western country, it doesn't exist anymore. Yes, we have problems. It's still hard to get to make money here than in like the opportunities for that for some people is harder, even though the high-tech industry is getting bigger and bigger. And the moment that that we realize that our market is international and not just domestic, and a lot of our companies are thinking this way, it changed the whole way of Israelis how they do businesses. I think a lot of international companies realize that the way of thinking of Israelis, of the entrepreneurship, of thinking outside the box, of this positivity of never of trying again and again, making them putting more emphasis in about development, like the development units in Israel or chapters in Israel, or relying on Israeli startups or buying Israeli startups for the big corporations. So I really think that this is a whole different ball game than it was 20, 30 years ago here with Israel and the Western world.
That's it. It's fascinating. I find that one big place, so like incomes in Israel have shot up, and particularly in high tech. My God, it's better than all of Southern Europe, and if you talk about in the greater tech industry, which I think employs 12% of the population, or probably the economy, not the population and that's growing too as a proportion. And then it's lifting other people that aren't directly in tech that are serving them, you know what I mean, the service industry, even people that are the janitors for the buildings for the tech, you know, it's amazing the ripple effect, right? But so wages are going up rapidly. And I would say it's just, you know, I think it's like $15,000 a year less than America. But the problem is that the cost of living, so you can earn a living,
right,
but the saving, so your purchasing power parity sucks in Israel. I think it's like the worst in the world, to the point where Tel Aviv is now literally the most expensive city in the world now, based on your purchasing power, what you earn.
I don't know, everywhere in Israel it's the worst in the world, but Tel Aviv is insanely experienced, and yes, it needs to change. That thing needs to change.
Yeah, but it's everything, right? Because cars, it's 115% tax or something like that. 120. That's insane. So people don't know this. If you're in America, you're buying a car for 20 grand. I'm paying 45 grand. That same car. Or what most people are, and I don't even get cars for 20 grand anymore. I don't know what the market's like. But it's just nuts. Like, we're paying more than double for a Tesla than you are. It's nuts.
But I'll tell you what
is like European. We have like 4 times taxes. And then, of course, the worst part, in my opinion, is the government owns like 93% of the land. So the cost for housing is like 2.5 times of what it should be. And that's why people are poor.
Right. We still have a lot of problems that we need to deal with. It's not a perfect place, but I do think it's made such a huge improvement, and no one in the world made this improvement in such a short time. But I'll tell you what didn't change.
That is true. Just because I'm a Jew complaining, which I know might be synonymous, but yes, there's been phenomenal amount of improvements, rapid improvements over a short period of time. That's really unmatched. That's really unusual. So that is true. What were you saying?
I said that I think a lot of the spirit about the togetherness did not change. And when I was a kid, I remember my father used to go a lot abroad for work. And one time that he went to New York, he was walking the streets of New York, and he got an attack of his stone in his kidney, which you understand can be very, very hard.
Painful.
And it was many years ago, before cell phone, before everything, and he collapsed on the street, and no one helped him. And he's like trying to get him
in America. Where was it?
Find himself in New York.
Yeah.
And he, in his last hour, he got to the lobby of the hotel, and then because his resident, because he stayed in that hotel. They helped him. They called the ambulance. And
even if it's not, it's bad for business. We have a dying man in our lobby. Get him out. What's the fastest way? Ambulance. they come fast enough, the police.
And I remember when he came back home and he told us what happened as a kid. I asked, like, why we're not people were not around? He said, yes. I said, why didn't they help you? And he said, this is how it is in New York. And that thing, as a kid, I could not comprehend.
Yeah, and he justified, it's understood. It wasn't like that's how it is and it's wrong. It's like expected, understood. It's very bad. I mean, in the subway, you can't make eye contact. Forget that. Walking down the streets, don't even make eye contact with somebody. It's like it's very bad. It's very weird.
So a year ago, I remember going in Tel Aviv, and I was talking on the phone to someone, and I saw like an old lady trying to get up of her bench, and she fell. She just fell on the street. And because I was on the phone, it took me 1 second more to react than if I wasn't on the phone. In that 1 second that I stopped the phone and get to her, 5 people already jumped on her to help her to. And I thought, and I remember that story, and I said, this is still
Israel, right?
This is still right, and that doesn't change in Israel, even though we became more westernized and we have more about business and international. This thing is very Israeli, and this thing, in a good way, did not change.
This happens all the time. This is a day. For those that don't know, this is a daily occurrence where they say where there is no like you look your way, I look my way. In a sense, in the public sphere, my well-being, everyone else sees my well-being as their well-being, and everyone sees your well-being as our well-being. So when you see a woman, this happened to me last week, where she was in line at the supermarket and she had a baby with her in a carriage, in a stroller kind of thing, and dropped its pacifier on the floor. And it's the same thing. It wasn't like her. It wasn't an old lady. She could have picked it up. It was a young mom. She wasn't like the baby was in the carriage. It was like she was holding it. And a bunch of people just dove to get the pacifier. If you have a lot of stuff and someone has a few things, you tell them to go in front of you. It's like almost expected.
The bad thing about it that it's doesn't stop there. Everyone thinks that your business is their business.
I know.
So they give you advice for everything about anything, even if you don't ask them. And that's something you need to learn how to live here.
Yes, you have to learn how to be respectful through it while you sit and you hear people tell you things. I remember my aunt in Yavne. She's awesome. I lived with her when I was getting my MBA, and she was telling me when they built their house in like 1957. It was like just sand dunes. I don't know. And I asked him, my uncle, he was like, Yaakov, I was like, why did you decide to build here? He was like, everyone else was doing it. All right. And they were saying how they were counting the agurot that they lived in their house for like a year and a half without windows. They put plastic up and cement, and we're living in it while he was building it because they know where to live. And this is it. And so I was telling her about she's all about and save and have the money, then do it. So I'm like saying, no, we have this thing called modern financing. Whereas, by the way, I can bring like 30% or whatever, and then I can pay it over the course of 30 years and live in it now, not in 30 years. I don't need a house without windows, even though I didn't. And she was like, so, it was just like, and then she had to give me her entire life opinion on why I was wrong and you shouldn't spend money on things unless you have them, which there is truth to that principle, of course. Don't spend money you don't have, but then you try to, but of course, then the fact that I told her I wanted to do financing, whatever, what we call a mortgage, she had to give me her opinion every day until I moved in. That's how it is, kind of thing. But yeah, it's very much totally listen to us, listen to our opinion. There's kind of and there's that thing, kind of like your parent has every right to tell you what they think, what you should do, how come, and they're really looking out for your interests. Like it's authentic, even if they're wrong or they don't know where they're coming from, or it might be outdated or irrelevant. You sit there, you listen, and you respectfully listen. You don't cut them off. You don't put your headphones on like if a stranger's talking to you on let's say on the subway in New York. That's not how it is here. And yeah, it's got a lot of pluses and it's great, but sometimes it just means you need to listen to other people say things. But what's also great is if you're playing your music loud in the bus, people will tell you, shut that shit off.
Right.
Which is great. So, you're not going to get that.
Very
People are too scared to
direct.
be stabbed.
People are very direct here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, personally, I love it. I know a lot of people don't like it, or it's hard for them. They understand it, but it's just not natural for them. But I think some of the directness is probably one of the more important things. So in Israel, so with Masa, there's obviously a lot of different travel, a lot of different internships, opportunities to learn. Basically, that covers the entire country. What would you say is if someone were coming to visit Israel, Masa, otherwise, whatever, that they should go see in general, one, and then what should they see that they probably don't know about that the tour guides aren't going to tell them? Kind of like some, as they say, off the beaten path kind of thing that you would recommend that isn't huge, isn't a tourist destination, and they wouldn't know about it and be told about it from anyone in tourism, but maybe just a local.
Well, I think the regular sites. I'm not going to tell you which one of them. There's like the must places to go, and everyone goes to them. But I would do say about I would do recommend to even if you're not coming to Masa for a few months, even if you're coming for a few days. I always, when I travel, I always try to even live it like a local for a few hours. Just to if I stay elsewhere in the world, so I compare it to staying like here now in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. Don't go just to a site, just go in the streets, go to local restaurants, go and find go to the grocery shops. And grocery shops, you can definitely find you can learn so much about about the place you are, just from the what's available there, what's in the front, what's in the back,
That's very
how the
interesting.
diet of the people.
That's very fascinating how much you can learn from culturally from supermarkets. Right.
Yeah,
What's with eye level, what's on sale,
lot.
what's by the cashier. That's very fascinating, actually. That I never thought
And
of it that
also,
way.
how's the diet there? Is more what's cheap, what's expensive. Like for Israel, you say it's very expensive, many things, but fruits and vegetables are very cheap. One of the cheapest in the Western world, much cheaper than America or in Europe. So why? Because and you can see that because it's cheap here, it's a big portion of the meal. We eat a lot of vegetables. We eat more fruits than you eat in America, and they are better. I think you can learn a lot
They're
from
also
that.
better.
Personally,
You tell an Israeli to try cucumber outside of Israel, it's not the same.
oh, I can.
No one can. Every
I-
Israeli, they can't. I have people in Ireland, in America, in England, and India. There's cucumbers. There's nothing like a cucumber from Israel. I don't know why. Why they're so damn sweet.
But because we don't put them so many chemicals, they're not this size, and
I
they're
know.
not just 90% water. Um, but if you ask about the unique place that most people won't take you, what tour guys won't take you, I would think I would say about my hometown, and it's a really nice place.
Are you
in the
inviting
north
them
of
over for
Israel.
Shabbat? Is that what you're saying?
Well, my parents live there, so they can go there.
Not here.
I'll give you the address. My mom loves to cook for Shabbat. Um, but the hometown that I grew up and raised, it's called Tivon. It's in the Lower Galilee of Israel, and it's built in that place. There is a archaeological site of a place called Bet Shearim, which was a Jewish town, a big city actually. That was the biggest, the main city in the after the second temple destruction 2,000 years ago. So the majority of the center of the community came from Jerusalem, went to the north, and that it built one of the places that they built is Bet Shearim, and there is a cemetery there in caves that is like the Mount of Olives of that time. If you know about the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, that is like a place that is like really holy, and a lot of people from all over the Jewish world are buried there from different centuries. So that became that part of that time. And you can see leaders of Jewish communities from Syria, from Lebanon, from Egypt, from Turkey, and of course some places in Israel are buried there from I'm talking about communities from 2,000 years ago. So on one hand, you have this unbelievable site, which is not a Masa site on the maps of the tour guides. That's why I said it. But on the other hand, there is this modern town that was built in 1937. Actually, from my grandfather and 11 of his friends settled on that hill and tried to build and start building it when they came to Israel. And you can see the old and the new coming together. And for me, it's an amazing experience to see.
There you go. That's beautiful. Love that. And if there was what's your favorite when you go with Masa Israel around to people around Israel? What's your favorite place to take people? Like,
we try to take them to not to the obvious places like not getting to Masada or to we try to get them to meet more the people of Israel through our trips. We get them to more culturally, more deep, more like seminars throughout the country when they can get to know the real people, but also hiking in different places. So they do go all over the country. Every program go to the north, go to the south, go to Jerusalem, but they do it in a bit of a twist, and it's not just a regular trip. We try to get in a bit deeper.
All right. Yeah. If for those that mind, by the way, is just specifically Friday night at the Kotel is specifically Friday night. I think you're really missing the Jerusalem experience if you're not there Friday night. A lot of people say, okay, I saw the Kotel, but it's not, the Western Wall is not like what it is Friday night. Amazing. If people can learn more about, we'll wrap things up. If people can learn more about Masa, what's the best thing to go? Just search for Masa Israel.
Yes, Masa Israel on the site. We have I think a very good really good website with I think great user experience, and we also online we are on social in all of everywhere. Just if you just go online with Masa Israel, you will find us everywhere.
Awesome. And where can people follow you personally?
I have a LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. This is where I'm active. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's my main.
Me too. That makes two of us. Awesome. Ofer, thank you so much for your time. It's great to learn about what
you very much,
how much you're involved and how you're making a big difference. And thank you for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. I enjoyed very much.